as it relates to holding Democrats and what many view as anti-American actors within the deep state to account. Developments are moving at remarkable speed. We are talking about indictments, arrests, and criminal charges unfolding in rapid succession. In many respects, the apprehension of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela appears to have set this process in motion. Over the past 36 hours, fragments of information have emerged from Trump administration insiders, along with statements from President Trump himself, offering a clearer picture of what is happening behind the scenes. Today, the goal is to connect those dots and explain how these events fit together. Let's get into the news. To set the stage, let me introduce Ed Martin.
He currently serves as an associate deputy attorney at the Department of Justice and is President Trump's personally appointed pardon attorney with a mandate that goes beyond routine reviews.
His remit includes examining alleged criminal conduct tied to Democrats and, more narrowly, scrutinizing the legitimacy of Joe Biden's so-called auto pen pardons. For nearly 11 months, Martin has worked largely out of public view, methodically assembling cases behind closed doors against a range of Democratic figures and deep state operatives. That's why it caught attention yesterday when he broke his professional silence. For the first time in months, Martin surfaced publicly, posting not one but two notably pointed messages on his official government X account posts that were brief, deliberate, and, by any measure, revealing. In the first post, he reposted a message that read, "I believe before the midterm election there will be a line of incarcerated bad guys longer than Black Friday at a Walmart." Ed Martin responded simply, "Fair prediction. If you stop and think about it, that reaction is revealing." Building airtight, prosecutable criminal cases takes time, months, sometimes years, especially if the goal is convictions that actually hold up. That is precisely the kind of work Martin and his team have been doing quietly throughout 2025. There's also a basic political reality at play. From a strategic standpoint, it makes far more sense to unveil major indictments in 2026, right in the heart of the midterm season, when their impact would be greatest. Like it or not, Americans have short political memories. Ask anyone to name the biggest political story from 7 weeks ago, and most people can't. The news cycle moves fast, and even major stories fade within days. Seen in that light, the picture becomes clearer. Rather than rushing announcements now, the Trump administration appears content to sit on completed or near complete cases, holding them until the moment they matter most electorally. If that is the plan, Martin's brief comment wasn't casual at all. It was a signal that timing, not haste, is driving what comes next. But as I mentioned, Ed Martin made a second, far more curious post later that same afternoon. He replied to a comment that read, "It's going to be wild when Maduro tries to plead to lesser charges by offering evidence that the 2020 election was stolen." Martin's response was not a denial, not a clarification, but a single exclamation point. That reaction matters. It suggests more than casual amusement. Taken together with his earlier comment, it reads like a deliberate signal rather than an offhand remark. The implication is not only that the Biden auto pen pardons may face serious legal challenge, but that larger developments are being anticipated, timed, and managed. More striking still is what this implies about Maduro himself. If he is facing life-ending federal charges, the incentives are obvious. Defendants in that position do not stay silent. They bargain, they cooperate. And if Maduro possesses information that implicates American political actors who interacted with or relied on his regime, the pressure to disclose it will be immense. At minimum, Martin's response suggests the Justice Department is not dismissing that possibility. And if so, the scope of what emerges next may extend well beyond Venezuela and well beyond what most observers currently expect. This situation becomes even more intriguing when you add one more detail from yesterday afternoon. Former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn shared a post that raised eyebrows for many of the same reasons. Flynn reposted a Truth Social message from President Trump, in which the president asserted that the CIA overthrew the U.S. government on November 3rd, 2020. And that Dominion deleted 2.7 million Trump votes nationwide. Those were President Trump's words posted publicly on his own account, and Flynn amplified them without qualification. What makes the timing notable is that Trump made that post within roughly 2 hours of Nicolas Maduro's apprehension by U.S. Special Forces in Caracas. That sequence matters. It suggests intent rather than coincidence. So it raises an obvious question: why would the first public statement from the president, immediately after capturing a foreign dictator, pivot directly to claims of election interference and a CIA-backed coup? In politics, timing is rarely accidental. And when figures at this level choose their moments carefully, it usually signals that events behind the scenes are beginning to converge. It may also have something to do with the fact that President Trump had his newly appointed CIA director, John Ratcliffe, standing beside him in the command room, watching the apprehension of Maduro unfold live. As the saying goes, times change, and they are changing quickly. What is difficult to ignore is what followed. In the roughly 36 hours since Maduro was taken into custody, President Trump has repeatedly and publicly returned to one subject: election interference. He has reposted videos, referenced the CIA role in the 2020 election, raised questions about Dominion voting machines, and again mentioned Venezuelan-linked Smartmatic software. The volume alone is striking. More striking still is the timing. Trump did not gradually ease back into these claims. He opened the door wide almost immediately after Maduro's arrest. In politics, patterns matter. And when a president chooses to revisit the same issue again and again at a moment like this, it invites a reasonable question. Why now? The sequence, at the very least, gives one pause. In fact, consider this example. Just yesterday afternoon, President Trump reposted a video stating, "Trump just reposted this video about Dominion voting machine fraud. You think the timing is a coincidence?" A Venezuelan military intelligence whistleblower has confirmed the CIA outsourced election rigging technology, Smartmatic and Dominion, from Maduro's Venezuela. That post came directly from Trump himself. At this point, the signal is hard to miss. The message is not subtle. Trump is clearly pointing back to a narrative that has been circulating for years. The claims surrounding Dominion, Smartmatic, and Venezuelan election technology did not suddenly appear overnight. They have been discussed publicly before, most notably by former federal prosecutor and former General Flynn attorney Sidney Powell, who raised these issues years ago. And that context matters.
Well, I can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact it was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. It was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. So if you want to talk about foreign election interference, we certainly have it now. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems, surprisingly enough. Hunter Biden type graft to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it.
As things now stand, Sidney Powell appears close to vindication. She raised these allegations early, at a time when doing so carried professional and personal costs, and history has a way of revisiting claims that were once dismissed out of hand. If that reassessment is coming, it will not be subtle. After weighing the material covered today, it is reasonable to expect that 2026 will be consequential, and that may be overdue. Questions surrounding elections, foreign involvement, and political accountability do not disappear by being ignored. If the country intends to govern itself seriously, those questions must be confronted directly.